to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I will be your host for this evening, or this morning, or the afternoon, or whenever you happen to listen, because after all, it is your podcast. Now, joining me today is a man who's no stranger to the community. He's a gentleman who has gone from writing reviews for Zatu to creating his own Facebook group, to getting his kind of his first design game kind of published. It is it's none other than a Mr. Martyn Poole. So, hello, Mr. Martyn Poole.
Hello.
How are you, Mr. Martyn Poole?
I'm good.
Hello.
I'm good, thank you.
Good. It's good to have you on because we've been aware of each other's existence, I think, for a while, but our communication swords didn't cross until kind of quite recently. So it's kind of good to get you on, to have a little chat and to find out a little bit more about yourself, because you've had a lot of things happening.
Yes.
Let's be fair. You've had a lot of things happening. It's all been good. But there's been an awful lot of cardboard related shenanigans going on, which is why it seemed like a really, really good time to kind of get you on and had a chat, because all the planets and stuff have all converged into one big convergence, and you know, we're in the solar system that is known as the Poolosphere, as you would say. Now, for people that haven't listened to us before, thank you for listening. Because it's getting close to Christmas, you will find that we have a range of mince pies, mulled wine, and if you want to pull a cracker, pick one up at the front. It's help yourself. The reason that we do this is because we fundamentally believe that there's quite simply, there's not enough podcasts out there about board games, and there's certainly not enough podcasts out there from Scotland. Apparently there's now 3. Apparently. Because I was going on about the Unlucky Frog Gaming for a while, and then David Wright from basically the Tabletop Scotland says, "Oh, by the way, do you know there's a third one called the First Player Marker?" Apparently they're from Scotland as well. I'm going to have to go and track them down, because if they keep spreading like wildfire, we're going to have a cull. Let's be perfectly honest about that. And the other reason that we're doing this is because this guy's name keeps cropping up everywhere. If he's not on like the board game geek groups, he's running his own little Facebook group. He's talking about his game he's published, and you just can't keep avoiding the man that is Martyn Poole. So, you know, we decided let's have a chat. So, as we always do, we want to find out a little bit about your history with the kind of the pressed and printed trees. So first of all, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And secondly, do you want to tell us a little bit about your history?
Okay, yeah. I've only been involved in board games in the capacity that I am at the moment for about 2 years, believe it or not. I used to play a lot when I was young, Cluedo, Monopoly.
All right.
I remember having an electronic Battleships game, and sort of used to flip it around on the table because I had no one to play with. So I used to do one side and then flip it around, and I still remember how it said that.
How does that even work?
Well, short-term memory. When I was a child, I couldn't remember where I put the ships.
And then you've got the other side of at least you always won.
Well, yeah. Unless the batteries ran out and then nobody won.
And then everybody lost.
But yeah, no, I started playing games about 2 years ago. Just got children now, heavily involved in computer games. I love computer games, always played computer games, but they take a lot of time. And I wanted something that was sort of sociable aspect as well, or social aspect. So I looked around online and found a few groups, and found that where I live, Telford, it's actually got a really good board game group that meets on a Thursday. And I went, and I remember the first day I was expecting it to be full of the typical people that you think board games are, are full of. My partner, who isn't into games, was teasing me all week leading up to it as well. So I was very, very, very nervous. And I walked in and I was like, "There's a bar, okay.
All right.
There's normal people, okay." I was like,
So she was,
and then
they were winding. Your partner was winding you up all the way.
Yeah.
What they were saying is like, they're going to get the really heavy games.
yes.
And they're going to hit you in the head with them.
No, it was like, it's just going to be full of sweaty teenagers.
Exactly. If you've had a wash this week, you're one up on 90% of the people that are there, kind of thing.
Yeah, but the worst thing was there was what we laugh about in the hobby as normal people, and then there was the other people that play, the heavier games, like you said, and I sort of sat with the people that I didn't think I would sit with. And I was like, I was having fun, and I was like, right, okay. And then it turns out one of the people I was actually playing with was my cousin. And we hadn't seen each other for years. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So it's quite good. I attend most Thursdays. And I started reviewing games, like you said, for Zatu. And I kind of...
Yeah, how did that come about? Did you just kind of rock up there and just say, "Hey guys, I fancy"? Have you always been a bit of a writer? Did you write stuff for like video games and stuff beforehand?
Not at all, no. And I'm actually dyslexic as well. So it sort of happened. I saw on Twitter. I bought my first real different board game from them, so something different from Monopoly.
Yeah.
I bought Heroes of Normandy off them.
Okay.
And the rule book absolutely sucked. And I was like, right, okay, how am I going to learn to play this game? And then I saw that they were actually after people to do reviews and blogs and stuff. So I said, I'll do one for Heroes of Normandy. And it went down really, really well because my review style was sort of short and sweet. This is what the game is. This is what it does. If you like it, go and buy it. If you don't, then don't. And it went down really well.
3 sentences.
Yeah, a bit more than that in between, but what I had for tea or something like that.
Exactly. It's one of these, or is it one of like? There's a movie website that I read, and one of the guys who's famous for spending kind of doing Barbara Cartland type things, where he spends like 45 minutes of the review talking about how the film relates to some kind of story that he was involved in as a child. And then the last kind of like 3 sentences saying, "Well, it's rubbish." Too much CGI, or it's a tour de force kind of thing. So, yeah, that's kind of fine. Yeah. Well, how did you write the heroes? How did you write the Normandy one? Was it like kind of like, and if you remember that before they used to attack Normandy, they would often get the priest to read the Bible. Now, the Bible goes like this. In the beginning...
It was more along the lines of, can anyone help me with the rule book, please? So I can actually write a review. But no.
It's like one of those charity things. Martyn, 32, has been struggling with the game Heroes of Normandy for some time. You can donate £10 to help Martyn play his game if you text bored.
I wish I'd have thought of that, to be honest, but
you should have. That would have gone down like a treat.
No, it was.
So anyway, I'm kind of interrupting.
No, it's fine.
You wrote 5 sentences.
Yep, and it went down really, really well. Yeah. And it just went from there. They were just like, okay, well, what other games do you want to review? And then because I went every Thursday, and I probably played 2 or 3 games every night, the reviews were coming quite thick and fast. And up until 4 or 5 weeks ago, I've done 100 reviews in a year, basically. So from someone that's not gone from playing board games to doing 100 reviews, I've gone in, dived in head first.
It's not bad. It's not bad. If you'd done 125, I would have been impressed, I think. 100 is a decent number. But, I mean, joking aside, as somebody who's dyslexic, that is an achievement and a half, because the people I know with dyslexia, they spend half the time kind of second guessing themselves if they've got the stuff right, kind of like in the first place. Are you quite severely dyslexic, or?
No, it is. It's very slight. It didn't actually get picked up until towards the end of my school life.
Oh, right, okay.
So
okay.
It is very, very slight. But what I find is sometimes what I think I'm writing isn't what I'm actually writing, and I have to read it back 3 or 4 times, and I'm like, what was I actually saying? So yeah, that's mainly why the reviews aren't in as depth as they probably should be. But it's one of them, and the thing that really made me feel comfortable doing it was the fact that how many people have the same problem as me. So when they're reading my review, it actually, it makes them feel more comfortable being able to read it, because it's not these big, long, convoluted sentences that they've got no idea what the words are.
Yeah, I think like any kind of review piece, it's you're kind of getting a fine line between making the review piece kind of informative, but at the same time also making people actually want to read it as well.
Yes.
And it's a difficult line between you actually just stating the facts about the game and stating the facts about the game with like some kind of opinion. And I think the only thing that sometimes reviewers of games of any kind of medium get levelled at them is, if you end up just telling people what the thing is, then what are you doing? Kind of thing. You've got to kind of
exactly.
give a kind of a bit of an opinion at the same time. With again, I take it then are you a bit more of a stern judge when it comes to kind of rule books if they're not as kind of clear and as kind of precise? I mean, is there any games that you've played recently that you've went, actually, this is excellent for helping me to kind of get into the game very, very quickly? Or have there been, on the other side of it, is there also games where you're just like, give us a flipping break, mate, kind of thing?
I remember one of the early reviews that I did was Shipwrights of the North Sea, or Shipwrights of the Shem Phillips game. And there's a grid sort of in that which tells you what your starting resources are and how many meeples you have.
Uh-huh.
And I sort of read the rules, played the game, and it wasn't just me, it was one of the other gamers as well. We had trouble figuring out what your actual starting resources were, and it wasn't really a rule book error, it was a layout error. And there was a comma or a full stop in the wrong place, and it basically made it look like the one which was actually the resource that you started with was point number 1, and the 2 was point number 2. And I wrote the review, and Shem sent me a message saying, you're wrong, basically. And I was like, no, I'm not. And then I went and got the rule book, and I remember sitting in the front room with the laptop thinking, I'm not wrong, how dare he? Going to get the rule book, opening it up and going, I'm wrong. Okay.
Alright, okay.
And this is when Raiders of the North Sea was quite prominent on social media, so he was somebody that has obviously made a really good game, and there I was bashing one of his earlier games for the rule book. And I felt quite bad, but I suppose on the flip side,
I don't know.
Yeah, if I struggle with that and somebody else struggled with that, then maybe it wasn't really an error, it was the layout issue. We have since spoken, he did agree with me, so I was right. If you're listening, I was right.
Remember, you can tweet at Martyn directly with any feedback you've got about that. But no, I mean, that's important. I mean, if you read a rulebook and that rulebook by that particular designer has something which you're kind of like, oh, okay, I made a mistake on that, because there is nothing worse. There is nothing worse than reading a rulebook and discovering that you've got the rules wrong, kind of like 5 or 6 games in.
Yes. And
you've been playing the game kind of wrong. I think I'm guilty of that. I think the most recent one was Viticulture, where I think after a couple of games when we were harvesting the grapes, we were taking the cards out the fields for some reason, and then somebody came up and says, "No, you just keep them in. They are. You've planted them. They're meant to be there all the time." I was like, "Oh right, okay, that's so game changing." I'm so embarrassed.
It happens though. I think if you get a rule wrong, but you still enjoy the game, it doesn't really detract from it. It's when you get a rule wrong and absolutely blast the game to everybody that you know, and then realise, actually, no, I was playing that wrong. There's a thing at the moment on the internet about a Monopoly rule that suddenly everybody is going on about.
Yeah, yeah. Who was I speaking to that? I don't know if I was actually speaking to that with Isaac. Yeah, and Isaac Childress. He shall not be named because he wrecked the last segment of my show. But yeah, we kind of mentioned that, and yeah, that's a kind of but Monopoly's probably one of the most house-ruled games that I've ever played. Yeah. I mean, you go from one house to the other and everybody's kind of got their own... It's not necessarily even a house rule, it's kind of like the family rule that's passed down from generation to generation, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's always there's the free parking argument, you know, thou shalt take all money from free parking.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously the terrible jokes that you get. I remember the one about, was it the chance card that says you have won second prize in a beauty contest kind of thing? And I remember my dad always saying every single time without fail, "Haha, first prize went to the pig." That's not very nice thing to say about Mum. But but you know that is like, you know, that's the case with the kind of Monopoly. One of the nicest rule books, I guess, that has been really, really intuitive and very, very easy to play has been the Mechs versus Minions one. That seems to take you by the hand and guide you into introducing all the kind of the new kind of mechanics that unearths as it kind of
I think the biggest one for me that was completely unusual and took me by surprise was This War of Mine, and the way that I really enjoy that game. Probably one of my all-time favourite solo games, along with Robinson Crusoe.
You enjoy This War of Mine?
Yes, I do. Do you want to stop the podcast now? Or?
I just wondering enjoy, because I've heard Andy Lewis and Steve Tudor both saying that This War of Mine is something that you kind of endure. There's hankies at the ready because it's quite a sad, tough and difficult kind of game. So
I had that debate with people in the game group, and these are the same sort of people that will go and watch horror movies and zombie movies and thinking it's a piece of cardboard on your table with some writing, and you're really getting upset about it. I can understand why. if you've had experiences in your life, but come on, it's the same as video games. You know, I don't get upset when I play Call of Duty and kill people. I'm not going to get upset over
laugh away instead.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, the hobby of board games is a break away from reality, and I know that This War of Mine's trying to blur that line, but I've never been in a war-torn situation. Fingers crossed, I've been quite lucky. So it doesn't affect me, and I have to have a look at the game for its own merits, which is, for me, it was different. It was enjoyable. The rulebook was good. The components were good. So the whole overall experience was really good.
So you continue to write for Zatu.
Yep.
You know, just churning out these reviews, and then you start to get more involved in the industry in general. Board game exposure.
That's the one.
Is that what makes you decide? I mean, the Facebook groups that are out there, you've got the Board Game Geek, you've got the Board Game Group, you've got the Board Game Spotlight, you've got the Board Game After Dark, you've got the Board Game First Thing in the Morning, you've got the Board Game Coffee, you've got the Board Game Tea, you've got the Board Game with Biscuits. What made you decide to go down the group of, running the board game exposure group, because it's quite raunchy, just going about, here, have some exposure.
I just didn't see enough of people.
If you're going to do a Facebook group about board games, I'm going to do it naked.
Well, that's it. That's how we're doing the podcast.
That's how we're doing the podcast. If it ain't flapping, I ain't clapping. That's the way to look at it. But it's just true. It's not even, a joke. It's just a fact of life. So, what makes you go from, you're obviously, the Zatu stuff is helping you with a little bit of, your confidence, kind of knowing that you're able to get across a message, to get across your thoughts and your feelings on how the game is coming across. So what made you then decide to say, well, actually, there's something missing that I can maybe put out there, and with regards to kind of like Facebook? How did you come to kind of that kind of decision?
I'm guessing because Zatu were publishing my articles, I couldn't really have my own blog start up, because I wouldn't have content of my own, because it would be Zatu's content. So the blog route was sort of not worth the time and effort, and I was probably too lazy to start that up as well. Working full time, it was something I did on the side, so I thought I'll try and set up a group. And a couple of the first people I ever spoke to, people that you would probably know, Mark McKinnon,
of Wreck and Ruin fame.
Yes, that's the one. Then you've got Kevin from Legends Untold.
Kevin Young.
Yeah.
Legends Untold fame.
And then you've got Sarah from Awesome.
Sarah Kennington.
I'm not going to do anything.
Don't tell me you got Nigel involved.
I didn't actually, although he did send me some artwork once, because
Sarah
had a go at him because I was doing an article for UK Games Expo, and she'd given me the written piece, and I was like, okay, give me some artwork. And I was like, it's still not here. And then she just sort of CC'd him in an email, and it was there within 5 seconds. So, yeah.
I think Nigel getting told off at any time at all is always brilliant. It's always really, really good fun. I have a lot of time for Nigel. I think Nigel's excellent. He's genuinely just hysterically funny.
Yeah, he needs one of them.
even when he doesn't mean it, he's kind of eye-rollingly funny. He's kind of like tut funny kind of thing. But I've got a lot of time for. I've got a lot of time for all of them. In fact, I've now met all of them as well, which is a kind of a
I've met them all, and they're all genuine, and they all helped me out. Board Game Exposure was a closed group, so to start off with, I only accepted people that I knew that wanted to be there. And within 5 months, I was up to 800 people, and I was just like, right, okay, I'm going to have to open this up now. I've got a core group that want to be there for the sake of being there. So I asked everybody, and I let it be their group, so to speak, to start off with. And it's evolved from there. It's completely different. But having that core group, it's still got that community feel. And everything I do, I try to involve everybody. So that was the idea of the group, just to be a place where I could put my own content without being told off by Facebook police for spamming.
Let's not go there.
Yeah.
How dare you post more than once a month? It's like, okay, well, I can't help it if I do 13 podcasts in a month, I'm afraid. You are only allowed to post once a month, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Then I'll put all of them in one post. You're not allowed to have more than one post in a month. Will you just, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Leave it be.
Yeah, I understand.
There's more important things going on in the world. But the idea behind Board Game Exposure was to help people get the word out there about what they were doing, projects they were working on, and stuff like
definitely.
that.
Yeah, I was doing Kickstarter previews mainly, so I would hit somebody up and say, hey, I see you've got a Kickstarter, send me your rulebook over. I don't need a physical copy. I'll just tell them about the art and the direction that you're going in, and that's the idea of my Kickstarter previews. And they were surprisingly really well thought after, and before long people were asking me to physically review them, and that's where the group is at the moment, the Board Game Collective, where I've got quite, I think, 5 or 6 reviewers now. I've actually stopped reviewing at the moment because of my game that's Robin Hood. So yeah, it just evolved really, really quickly, and the fact that we could get copies from America and actually get it 3, 4 or 5 reviews for one copy, it sort of exploded, because suddenly we were really good value for American people to get us their games as well.
Is that a kind of a chargeable service then?
No,
Would you...
completely free. We even pay for the shipping between ourselves.
So people will come to you and say, we'd like some copies of the games, and you'll say, yeah, we'll pay for them to come over here, and we will get you some reviews in turn. Yeah,
so basically, for example, which was the latest game that we got sent, I can't remember off the top of my head, but basically an American person could contact us and say, I've got a Kickstarter coming, I need X amount of reviews, can you do it for me? And I'm like, yeah. You pay the shipping to the UK plus the customs. As soon as it's in the UK, it'll come to my house, or it'll go to one of the other guys. They'll review it over 2 weeks, and then as soon as they've reviewed it, they'll then pay the shipping company to pass it on to somebody else, and then they'll do the same, and they'll do the same.
That sounds like... Well, I mean, it's an important service, because I think one of the things that people kind of really require more and more, especially if they're running their Kickstarter campaign, is to actually get some people who are willing to kind of review the games themselves. Do you feel, because you're paying them to come over, and I guess this is something that I think it was maybe Meeples Like Us kind of brought up, do you feel under pressure to kind of provide a kind of a kind of a middle to positive review, or are you quite willing to kind of go back and say, listen, this, give some feedback? Have you been in the situation where you've maybe had to turn around to somebody and say, listen, this kind of is broken in certain places and it's not going to review well, or
We've turned games down. There's a bit of a running joke between myself, Jason, and Martyn Poole at the moment, because every game I review, I always say I enjoy it, because for me, I just enjoy playing games. So the ones that I review are ones that I generally know that I'm going to enjoy the mechanics at least. So I'm a very, very positive reviewer. We've got Nick Welford and Jason, who aren't, to put it nicely, if there's something wrong with a game, they will always go back to the publisher and say, we don't enjoy it because of this, do you want me to publish the review? So we always give them the chance, and like, we're not earning any money for it. Each person will normally spend anywhere between £5 and £10 to pass it on to the next person, depending on how heavy it is. So we all know that, at the end of the day, we can be honest about the games, but it's always nice to give the publisher a heads up, just in case, especially if it's a Kickstarter, you could ruin their campaign, and it could actually be the fact that you've got a rule wrong.
Yeah, I guess, there's that kind of balance. I guess it's different if it's, I don't know, it's a strange thing, because there are so many Kickstarters out there. It's like, do you give somebody the chance to go back and make a change and make amends before they launch the product? Because the project obviously isn't launched until they press the go button. And I know of a lot of places where the finish of the Kickstarter campaign, they go back and they, based on actual feedback that they get during the campaign, I've seen kind of rule changes kind of take place. I've seen changes to components. I've seen changes to mechanics in some games, because they've listened to the feedback that they've got from the Kickstarter campaign. So are you viewing it as this is part of the process? We'll actually help people. They'll get the reviews, but at the same time, if we feel there's valuable feedback, they'll kind of get that at the same time as well, yeah? Yeah,
definitely, especially if somebody will take that on board. Worst case is when you give somebody feedback and they don't listen to you, they go ahead with a Kickstarter, and then you actually see 3, 4, maybe 5 people actually comment on the Kickstarter page with the exact same thing that you've done, and you just think to yourself, I wish that you would have listened to us, because you've wasted a good few weeks now. But it's a learning process. I don't know all the answers, and I think that's a positive with Kickstarter, the fact that even what you think is a finished product, close to, no matter how much playtesting you've had, somebody somewhere else will always find something to change, and you've just got to find a way to implement that to be happy with what you've created.
So, not being content with writing reviews, over 100 of them, setting up a Facebook group and helping people on Kickstarter get some feedback, you decide to go ahead and make your own game.
Yeah, well, I kind of...
Martyn.
I'm a glutton for punishment, I suppose. This is while working full time as well and having 2 children. But I had a rough design for a game, and I did a review for Cabin Tavern from Final Frontier, and it was a couple of months before the Rise to Nobility campaign. And I was speaking to Tony from Final Frontier, and I was like, look, I've got an idea for a game. Are you going to take commissions on if your next game does really well? Or he was like, well, I'll have a look at it, and I'll always help you. And he's actually from Macedonia, so he probably didn't speak like that at all. But anyway,
you don't want to start doing impressions of people, because
we've actually met, so I could probably get away with that joke. But
nah, I don't know. You could no. I'm not going to even, because I was like, go on then.
No, definitely not.
But let's not.
I sent him the idea with a few turns that I had down, the rule set that I had. In my eyes, it was probably a 40 to 60% complete game, and he was like, "Yeah, I like the idea, but let's change this, and this." And before long, we were working, even throughout the Rise to Nobility campaign, we were working in shaping this game. And I told a few people at my game group, and they were like, yeah, just go for it, you've got nothing to lose. And because I was still quite new, and I still am quite new to this hobby, I was a little bit worried that this guy that I'd never met, who, even though he'd sent me a free copy of his game, he could literally use me for my knowledge on the theme, that because mainly the knowledge that I had was on Robin Hood, because I grew up watching it, and I wanted a game that felt very thematic in that world, and that's what we were doing. We were building the mechanics to feel as if you were part of the Merry Men. And I was thinking to myself, well, he could literally just take all these ideas and run off. But at no point did any of us discuss contract or money until we were actually 90% sure we had a game that would be able to sell, and it would just need refining and playtesting. So Rise to Nobility did extremely well. I think it did around about $370,000 US dollars, and I was sort of like, hold on, these guys are bringing me along to make a game, and I was like really excited. And within about 2 or 3 weeks, just out of the blue, contract appeared in my inbox on Facebook, and he was just like, there you go, you're hired. And I was just like, right, okay, thanks, where do we go from here? And
I know, what do you think? What did you like check it and go, oh, there's not like the suspicious kind of flagged up message that says, similar emails have been used to collect people's personal information and bank details, kind of thing.
Well, I'm still waiting for the African prince to send me the money I had. I've sent him my bank details, but I haven't heard back from him.
Oh dear. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You went down the spam. The spam and scammers. But I mean, could you believe it? I mean, when you got when you got the email coming through with the contract, was it kind of like, oh, duh. Was it like opening up a Christmas present? I'll open it up now, or do I open it up later? Or
it's absolutely crazy because Final Frontier are a team of 4. You've got Toadie, Maya, Varna, and Voikan. And I hadn't even spoken to the other 3. This was just one person who was like,
that's crazy.
Here's your contract. And we all know that a contract can be cancelled, and there's even a clause in there, 21 days. But these people, from the initial email that I sent him, hey, like the look of Cavern Tavern, can I have a free copy to review? He could have said no at that point. Then to the bit where I said, will you have a look over this idea? He could have said no at that point. But no, he'd actually, every single day for 2, 3, 4 messages between us back and forth for a 5-6 month period. And then to get that, I was just like, oh, okay, you must see something in this idea that it must be a viable product. And
okay, that's kind of strange, isn't it? It's like a whirlwind type of romance where you've not had to go through the glass slipper, running after down the stairs, getting home before midnight.
No, definitely not. I think everything everything that's happened within the last 2 years has been either in the right time at the right place, or people take to me for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't know what it.
I don't know what it is, because I'm utterly jealous and have complete hatred for you.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll get over this, and you're not going to believe how badly I'm going to cut this episode.
Yeah. just talk about the African Prince, me playing Battleship on my own. Nobody's like,
exactly. He's a what? You know what I mean? But you can help me if you could just say that. If you could just say just quite clearly, all board gamers need to get a life. That would be good.
We're Not Wizards is not the podcast for you.
I'm definitely going to cut that out. But I mean, in terms of, because people will be interested, it's like, well, what are they signed you up for? Are they signed you up to work with them on taking the idea to the next level? Have they signed up to have you handing over the kind of the design idea to them and they're taking it to fruition, or are you now kind of almost like employed on a part-time basis as a designer? What's the... This
is where it gets really, really confusing,
right,
and probably making you a little bit more jealous. But since that's happened, I'm basically now working with and for Final Frontier and Thundergriff Games, who did Taolong, and we're bringing a new service that should launch in January, and it's going to be a board game dedicated PR service. Now, I can't say too much about it at the moment, but all this has come off the back of what I like to call the hard work that I've put in, building up the audience, board game exposure, and making a lot of contacts. Now, the original contract with Final Frontier was to co-design the game with them. So it was with them from every step of the way. I went to Essen with them, I helped them out. I've just come back from PAX Unplugged in Philadelphia. That was with Thundergriff Games, helping them out. So it's just, I think if you put yourself out there and you put hard work in, then people tend to realise that they're going to get a benefit from you, and then ultimately you benefit as well. That's how I look at it.
So, for people that are saying, you still haven't spoken about the game, and this is like, well, welcome to We're Not Wizards, this is what we do. Usually around about minute 42 is when we start talking about somebody's game that they're here to talk about. So guess what? We're about 30 seconds away from that, so we could be 30 seconds... You can be 30 seconds early if you want. Do you want to tell us all about this fabulous game about Robin and his merry men?
Do I have to?
No. You don't have to.
No, I'm only joking.
When's the Kickstarter campaign?
We're looking February hopefully
Okay.
end of January, beginning of February. Essen, it was the first time that I'd been to Essen. It's the first time that Final Frontier had been to Essen, and it took us by surprise, and it's put us back a little bit in terms of refining what we want to show on the Kickstarter. So
yeah,
we're doing all the little fine touches at the moment, getting the Kickstarter page ready, getting all the final art ready, all that sort of stuff's happening in the background. But the game's finished. It's fun. Obviously, I'm going to say that, but if I could have chosen the game at any point throughout the period, and what you've got to understand is that some of the decisions have been made by Final Frontier and not by me. I'm only a co-designer.
Yeah.
There's obviously 5 of us that have worked on it, so if I say, I don't like that, but the other 4 turn around and say they do, then it stays in. It's simple.
Okay.
So yeah, it's the best version of the game, basically, that it's ever been. Now, I said earlier that I'm a huge fan of Robin Hood. Now, I grew up watching the Errol Flynn movies with my granddad and my dad. And
that's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask if it was a kind of, if this was Russell Crowe or more Kevin Costner.
Yeah,
obviously you've gone further back and said it's Errol Flynn.
Yeah,
if you don't mind.
All the films are good if you take them for what they are. Excluding Men in Tights, which was awful, but a lot of
Men in Tights is amazing. Was it Carrie Elves?
Let's just not talk about that film, because it's not.
Let's talk about it, because he does the best line. Because he was directly taking the Michael out of Kevin Costner.
Yes.
He says, "What's separating you from the rest of the movies?" He turns around and goes, "I can do an English accent." And he went, "Ooh."
It's yeah, I know it's a comedy, but for me, Robin Hood is sort of somebody that robs from the rich, obviously. Somebody that ambushes the royal guards, somebody that enters an archery competition, rescues Maid Marian, and I wanted to put that into a game, and the only game that I'd ever played within the Robin Hood theme and universe was Sheriff of Nottingham, and you don't actually do anything in that that's really relevant.
Yeah, I was always surprised at that. I was expecting Robin to rock, rock up and go, arms for me, blind governor, kind of thing. But he never,
no, it doesn't.
He never kind of rocked up.
No, and I wanted to do it, and the first ever version of the game was sort of very combat heavy, almost could have been a war game, miniature type game, but with worker placement in it, and then it got completely stripped back to be a worker placement resource management game, which I think suits the theme a lot better. Every person that plays the game will take control of Robin Hood, Little John, Will Scarlet, or there's a made up female character in there as well, just to suit, because we did, because Maid Marian's actually captured in it, so so there is actually a female character that you can play as, and you've got workers. Like I said, it's worker placement. It's split into 2 phases. So you've got your Merry Men phase and your hero phase. So your Merry Men phase is when you go out, you collect resources, you build traps, and then your hero phase is when you actually go out and fight the sheriff. When you lay the traps on, there's 4 roads coming into the middle of the board, which is the castle. Carriages are coming in, so it's a little bit like tower defence, so you actually have to lay traps there to stop the carriages coming in, because they're robbing gold from the villagers, and you have to work together to stop these carriages coming into the centre, but at the same time there can only be one winner, so you're all playing against each other, but also you have to work together, so it makes for some quite fun engagement.
Yeah, okay. So it's kind of like looking after the greater good, but sometimes the greater good can be yourself.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you win or the game wins, so you have to decide which one. I
mean, have you put it in mind to kind of like play with more than 4 players? I mean, is there chances for expansions and stuff like that? I mean, is it best with 2 or?
It's designed from the ground up for 4. So this game will be for 4 people. Obviously, within the universe, there's always different stories that you want to tell, or there's always different characters that you want to include. And as much as everybody said that, it's a theme that everybody loves, it's a really good choice that you've done that. On the flip side, because it's a theme that everybody loves, if you do something wrong, then suddenly you're scrutinised a lot more than a made-up theme. So we've had to keep it where the story in the game is what you make it. So there is a very slight story in there that, Maid Marian's been captured, the sheriff's coming after you, but what actually happens in the game determines the conversations which you will have with the people that you play with, which then will determine, what the story that you make, basically.
Did you, when you've been putting the Kickstarter together, because it is coming out on Kickstarter, does that mean you have to have a different view with how you put the game kind of out there? I mean, this is my thinking behind it, okay? One of the criticisms that you hear an awful lot recently of some of the bigger Kickstarters, from, say, like your guys like Simon, yeah?
Yep.
And I'm not singling them out, other, obviously, bigger game design companies are available, is that you see, like, a base product, and then you'll see as a stretch goal, or as an exclusive to Kickstarter, or an add-on, an additional chunk of the game, which makes you think, well, why wasn't that originally just part of the core box? It's almost like it could have been separated off.
I think you're right from what I've seen of other campaigns. Now, again, what happens with the game and how it's designed and ultimately the final product of Robin Hood is down to Final Frontier. They're the publisher at the end of the day. I have very limited say in what goes into it, but from what I've seen and the way that they've treated me, I actually get more say than some of the friends that I know that have had games published, and they're quite accommodating. And the way that they've done the campaign, or they're going to do the campaign, and especially the way they've done their last campaigns, it's refreshing, because you've got your basic 2 pledges. You've got your standard Kickstarter pledge, or you've got your deluxe. The one is got better components than the other one, and then normally there's 1 add-on or 2 add-ons, which would be your deluxe dice rather than your standard dice, but everything's more superficial than a game add-on, and that's what I get frustrated with when I see a game that I really like, and you think, the base game, then you've got this add-on, then you've got this add-on, and then suddenly you're up to $200, and you think, if I only buy the base game, I'm only going to get limited plays out of it, so you sort of do need them. So I know where you're coming from, but no, Final Frontier haven't done that with any of their last campaigns, and I don't think they're going to do it with this one either. I think they want to be. They've told me that they don't want to be on Kickstarter forever. They want to make board games, and they know that they're going to have to stay on an uphill scale, sort of improving every time. So they're always looking at the market. They know their stuff. They're from a social marketing background as well. So their marketing and the way that they present themselves is really, really good.
Okay. In terms of have you seen a finished copy of the game? Have you been playing a finished copy of the game?
I haven't got a finished copy. I've got a prototype, and it's a strange feeling when that happens, when I have a look at the pieces of paper with scribble written on them and little stick men from Robin Hood with a little bow and arrow. And it's gone from that to what it is now, and they've got they've managed to get the Myco for the art, so the guy that did Valeria, and so the art is really, really good in my opinion. And these are the things that I could have probably got the game to market myself, but it would have taken an extra year or 2 years. I wouldn't have had the contacts. I wouldn't have had.
No.
I wouldn't have had the. It wouldn't be 10% of the game that it is now. So I often hear people say, "Oh, I've got an idea for a game, but I don't want to tell you too much about it because what if a publisher takes it off me?" And there probably are people out there that would do that. But I'd like to think that we're in an industry and a hobby where people don't, and I showed faith, Final Frontier showed faith in me, and so far it's worked. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's just, it must be mind blowing for you. I mean, do you ever go to the club now on Thursdays and somebody new turns up and you go and you just sit next to them and you stick the box on the table and you go, "See that? That's mine."
I
You just walk up to random people.
I hadn't even thought of that, but yeah, I did it a couple of weeks ago. I actually got a picture on my phone, and I was like, "Have you seen this?"
I could just see you like going about Asda or Tesco's like with a little pram with like the game inside it all wrapped up, and you get like an old woman coming over and going, "Oh, let's have a look then, let's have a look," and I go, "Oh," and they go, "Yeah, I know, it's gorgeous, isn't it? It's mine."
Yeah, it's quite funny because right at the start of the working relationship, in a joking way, they used to tell me off because I used to be like, "Oh yeah, I've designed this game and look at my game," and they were like,
"Yeah,
it's our game," and I was like, "Yeah, but it's mine."
And it's like, no,
yeah. So it's an unusual experience. It's fun. The fact that it's now led to a full-time job in the industry anyway with a PR company, and it's been a whirlwind, but I've enjoyed every moment of it.
It's very, very. I think, do you know what it is? It's kind of inspiring for other people that are listening, because I think there are people sitting there right now saying, "I'd like to get involved in the industry. I know an awful lot about the hobby. I am worried." I think, do you know what? I think there's a worry about this, even though it's still people go, "But it's quite a young industry. What about the stability? What happens if it kind of disappears over the night?" and things like that. But I guess you're one of these cases to show that if you do decide you want to go ahead and just kind of get involved, you go ahead and get involved.
Yeah.
And then eventually, if you get involved enough, then you'll reach a level where, things will either, things will stay level.
Yeah.
And you'll be there for a long time, or they'll continue to climb. But it depends entirely kind of what, how involved you kind of want to get.
Yeah. I don't understand when people say it's a young industry. I think they just look at the boom with Kickstarter, and there's the whole theory of, is it a bubble, is it not a bubble? And Kickstarter's only a percentage of the board game industry, and I think because it's mainly social driven, so we see a lot of it on Facebook and on Twitter, and it's all relevant to the new games that wouldn't be able to come to market if it wasn't for Kickstarter. The actual board game industry as a whole has been around for years and years and years, and it's not it's not suddenly going to go. So if Kickstarter did disappear, then people will struggle, and you won't see a lot of the indie games come in, and that's a shame, because a lot of the indie games are sometimes better than the straight to retail games. But what it would do is it would just shake up the whole industry, and the people that have had a few successful campaigns and have been wise with their money, they would be able to get a game published in a different way. And I think that's the thing. People that have already had 2, 3, 4 successful games, if they've been wise with their money and they want to be in the industry for long term, then there is that opportunity there. The board game industry isn't suddenly just next Monday just going to disappear and everyone's going to stop playing board games.
Well, I think, Jamie, Jamie Stegmaier's kind of proven that.
Yes.
I know he's like one guy, but Charterstone is already, you know, there was a buzz when Charterstone was announced 2 years ago. There is adoration going about. I looked at what Steve Tudor was tweeting yesterday, that he's been playing Charterstone quite a lot. A lot of people I know, James Hudson, he's been out there saying, you know, he's been playing Charterstone as well. So I mean, I guess it's about maybe getting a tail on your game, and I think that's what a lot of indie guys would like once they have Kickstarter. Once your game's funded, how do you keep it selling?
Yeah,
because it seems to be the case with a lot of Kickstarters. Is like the product's funded, the product gets fulfilled, but then it's a case of people are sitting around there and saying, well, I have to do another Kickstarter with another idea in order to kind of keep things going.
That's
instead of here's an exceptionally good. It happens occasionally. I mean, like, let's look at Scythe.
Yeah,
Gloomhaven.
Yeah.
Very, very well received games that have, you know, a retail kind of tail to them, kind of afterwards.
That's actually where the PR idea come from. I said, I can't go into too much detail, but the thing that annoys me so much is the fact that you see a game do really, really well on Kickstarter. It's fulfilled, people are playing it, and then 3 or 4 months down the line, everyone's forgotten about it, and you can't get hold of a copy, and copies are going for stupid amounts of money. And then that designer or that publisher is then moved on to their next game, and they've already got this game that could make them money, and they've forgotten about it, and it's not in retail shops. They don't offer a retail pledge, nothing along them lines, and they're already onto their next baby, so to speak. And you just think to yourself, I can understand why you do that, and Kickstarter is a huge amount of money quickly, but if you want to be in the hobby and for a long, or the industry, for a long period of time, you've got to establish the roots of getting your first game into shops and then move on to the next one. And that's what I was on about with, you know, if Kickstarter disappeared, these people that have managed to get their games in shops and people are talking about their games 6 months to a year afterwards, then they're the ones that are going to survive. And then all the small indie guys that haven't got that, they will just have to go back to working 9 till 5.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. What about yourself then? I mean, obviously you've got this job. How's that going to stop you in terms of your creativity? Do you still have more games that you're looking to put together? I mean, has this made you think, well, actually, all these other white bits of paper that I've got scribblings on them, I can maybe do stuff for them as well? Yeah,
we've already spoken, myself and Final Frontier. We would like to work together again. I don't know, they can't speak on this, so I'll say that it's been enjoyable working with them, and they've got no way of answering back, so they can't deny or confirm that, thank God. But
just check, is it in there? Tony, what was that? He's rubbish. Alright, okay, shall I let him know? No, it's okay. Go and put the kettle on though, thanks. He just shook his head and ran away.
Yeah. That was a really good, I could hear his accent in the background as well. But,
could you? That was, Macedonian's never been really strong for me.
But no, it's been good. I've learned a lot, and it's opened so many doors as well. So, I think Daniel Zayas, who he worded it perfectly on a Facebook status yesterday when we were talking. I basically said Merry Christmas to everyone before I forget and get too drunk or too busy. And I was like, have a nice 2018. And he said, we've both taken on that many different things that surely one of them should be successful. And I think that made me realise how many different things I am actually involved in. And it's good because they're all within one industry, so they all sort of complement each other. So yeah, I'm looking forward to 2018 and getting the game out there.
So is this vastly different from your normal kind of day job then?
Yeah, I I worked for a big DIY company that isn't B&Q, and
okay,
I worked in sales basically, but it was different in terms of the whole industry and what I was selling. But it's being a people person, even though I hate that cliche, but being able to speak to people and build up relationships and being honest is what this industry is about. And I think it's what life's about, to be honest. If you want to be successful in life, you have to be honest, and sometimes you have to give without receiving, and hope that it'll pay off in the long run.
That's pretty cool. No, I mean, you've always come across as kind of like, you're always continually doing something. It is kind of like, what is Martyn up to this week? And he's like, oh, I just made a game. Just like that.
Yeah.
Did what? Tony, yeah, he made a game, Tony. You know, that kind of thing. And everyone's like, what's he done now? He's done a Facebook group. He's done a Facebook group as well. What have you done? Can't even get you to do the dishes.
I was going to say it's about 10:30 in Macedonia, so he'll probably be 2 bottles of whiskey down.
He'd be shouting at people from the couch. So the new PR stuff, is that starting off is that early next year? Is that started off just already? Have you got an official kind of launch thing planned for that, or is it a case of watch this space to find out what's happening with that?
I've spoke to some reviewers about it, because we're going to need reviewer and media help with it. I've spoke to publishers about it as well, but it hasn't officially been announced. That will be in January. But the easiest way to think about it is it's going to be a service to help a publisher at any point within the creating period. So if it's playtesting, then we can help them. If it's reviews, then we can help them. If they need art direction, then we can help them. If whatever it is they need help with, then we can help them. And having Thundergriff Games and Final Frontier Games with their own skill sets, and then me in the middle, that's going to be the sort of getting the word out there and speaking to people and telling them what we can help them with. I think that it's the first of its kind sort of offering, and it will help the first time people that we spoke about 5 minutes ago when I said that they struggle getting a game into retail or knowing how to make the best of their opportunities. We can actually help them with that.
That's very, very cool. I keep saying that's very, very cool. I'm wildly, crazily jealous at every word that's coming out of your mouth at the moment, Mr. Poole. I can't help myself. I'm screaming internally, but I'm also very calm on the outside and good at hiding my emotions. So there you go.
You're just writing emails to all the reviewers saying that please give Robin Hood a bad review.
I would never ever do that to anyone at all, but I will make an exception in your case.
Well, I was going to say that maybe I could sort you a free copy out, but not.
No, that's okay. I don't want your game.
I
don't want your game.
I wasn't on about Robin Hood. I was on about the email of me sending out to people saying that not to listen to this podcast.
Oh, that's fine. I'm beyond saving. If people want to keep an eye on what you're up to and where they can find you, where can they find
everywhere
you? On the internet? Yeah, I know, that's what we're going to say. Do you know what I mean? Open your window, chuck out a brick, you'll probably hit somebody who knows where they can find Martyn Poole.
Yeah, it does feel like that sometimes, and I do get the odd inbox where people say, like, you post too much, but I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm going to sound really, really obnoxious now, but it's my group, and I want to, the people that are in there, I want them to think that, if they've got something that they want to share, or if they've got something that they want to market, as long as it's not spam, then post as many times as you want in the group. If I don't want to read it, then I'll skip past it. I'm not one of these people that constantly delete posts, and I'm not the Facebook police at the end of the day.
No. Is that why we're banned?
Yes.
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
I don't think you are, right?
Not yet.
No. Okay.
I just thought I'd publicly ask you.
No, that's okay. Cause
Just be
put me on the spot like that. I thought,
just for a second. You were like, "What have I banned him? Is this whole thing? He's been speaking to me for an hour only because he can turn around and ask me why have we banned from the group? Oh my goodness!"
it's alright. I've got 4 other moderators. I'll just blame them.
That will get you back on in a second. What's your email address again? Let me just type this in and delete it. Basically, if you go to Facebook and you type Board Game Exposure,
Yep.
we'll find you. Are you on Twitter?
I am. Board Game Exposure on Twitter as well.
Okay. Are you on the Facebook? You are on Facebook?
Yes. But Facebook's usually just my personal, but if they go into Board Game Exposure, they can fire me messages across that way.
Okay, that's cool. I take it you got a website?
I haven't.
Not yet.
No, I haven't got a website. Maybe that's something else that I can do.
Just do the website, do a blog, set up a blogger, take over the world, give me the hits right now, today. It's all fantastic.
There is a Facebook group for Robin Hood if you wanted to sign up.
Ah, okay.
So,
and where do you find that? How do you
just
find
type
that?
in Robin Hood and the Merry Men on the little search bar on Facebook, and it'll come up.
That's cool. Because what we'll do is obviously we will take links that you give us and we will put them in the show notes so that we have notes to show. Mr. Poole, this has been a delight. This is when you say no, it hasn't.
The silence there. I was actually watching the clock tick down.
The silence was deafening. I do have one more question. Okay.
Okay.
You have broken in to King John's treasury.
Okay.
Deftly sneaking through the bars by removing one of them. And King John has not only been stealing people's gold and their hard-earned money through the ill-fated taxes with cruelty, he's also been taking all the cardboard as well. So inside this vault is basically a collection, the largest collection of cardboard you have ever seen. It has got new games, it's got old games, it's got first editions, second editions, it's got expansions, it's got reprints, it's got everything that you and your merry men could ever desire. The unfortunate thing is that in order to get you into that vault, you've had to be lowered down on a rope. And try as he might, Little John can only pull you back up, but you can only pull you back up if you're only carrying a maximum of 3 board games. Now you can carry those board games, you can have any expansions that you want. But the question is, young Robin Poole, or Martyn Hood, or whatever, what 3 board games do you take with you out of King John's vault of cardboard?
Okay, so it would have to be Robinson Crusoe, number 1.
Okay.
Solo game that I enjoy.
Okay.
Then
your second game?
I don't know whether it's a board game, but one that I wish I would have kept as a kid. Crossbows and catapults. I don't know whether you can remember that.
Of course that's a good shout. That is a good shout. I believe that me and I think Chris Darby spoke about crossbows and catapults some time ago, to the point that we were sending photographs back and forwards to each other about it, because it was fantastic.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yes, you can have that, son. Okay. You can have that with joy and with gusto. However, there is a rattling outside. I believe the guards are coming. What's your third game going to be, sir?
Is it Star Wars Gambit Run, or the old Star Wars one by Avalon Hill? A bit of a grail game. It's meant to be one of the best Star Wars games that you can get. I've never actually played it, so it would probably...
You're going to take that one as well?
Yeah.
You really are looking for the treasure, aren't you?
I am. Yeah. I could have said Monopoly Scottish Edition or something, but
you could have said like one of the 100 games that you've reviewed, but you've gone for something quite unusual and fancy.
If I'm going to,
which is fine.
Yeah, if I'm going to break into a castle and have the choice of anything, then I may as well make it worthwhile.
Absolutely. Excellent. Thank you very, very much for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me. Really enjoyed it.
It's been a lot of fun. If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, then you can find us in the usual places. If you go to the Googles, if you search for We're Not Wizards, you will find us on Twitter. You will find us on Facebook under We're Not Wizards. You will find us on YouTube, because our fantastic podcast host Podbean automatically put all our episodes onto YouTube. If you want to find it the old way, if you look up to We're Not Wizards Tabletop Podcast, you will find us there. You will find us on Instagram, you will find us on Stitcher, you will find us on Speaker, you will find us on Acast, you'll find us on Podknife. If you have listened tonight and you've enjoyed what you've heard, please consider jumping onto Apple Podcasts, because apparently every single time somebody jumps onto Apple Podcasts and drops us a subscription, it increases the chances of us getting a lovely white Christmas. If you want to increase them even more, you can consider even giving us a review. If you are going to give us a review, remember, as we always say, try not to give us 10 stars, because that'll make us big-headed. But don't give us 1, because that'll make us cry. Give us 5, because it's average in the middle. Why are you laughing? And we are very average. But the gentleman who's not been average tonight, who's apparently lost it in the background due to that Apple Podcast joke, is the rather fantastic. They're rather wonderful. They're rather ultra busy. Check out all the stuff that he's doing, and check out the more stuff he's going to be doing next year. It is Mr. Martyn Poole.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. There's only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Martyn?
Only on a Saturday.
Oh, get out. See, Tony? Told you. It's not even a flipping outlaw, he's a wizard. And the second thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from the right up until the very end. Major disappointment. That is Martyn Poole. Say goodbye, Martyn.
Goodbye, Martyn.
I just couldn't help yourself. And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s. Yeah, check out, obviously February launch time. Martyn has an awful lot of stuff going on. We will make sure it's in the show notes. But if you're after something which involves running around in the forest and hanging about with your merry men and robbing the rich to steal the poor and potentially rescuing Maid Marian, then check out Martyn's game, which is going to be coming out on Kickstarter in February. And we'll probably get him back on to have a chat about it when it's launch time. I don't know, because he says he's a wizard. But until the next time, goodbye.